nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, welcome everyone. Alright, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda unless there's some corrections
I'll make a motion to approve agenda.
or additions, I should say.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Approve the minutes for April 28th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. General public concerns. Hearing none, I have one comment from an individual from West Bend, Bruce Hefty. As regards to the Rutland Dam. And I just reminded him that it was now Rutland's Dam. So, and
Sounds like he's been talking
yeah,
with them.
so I directed him in the right direction, I guess.
Oh, yeah, you already run that direction, that's why you went your direction.
Okay. Anything else? All right. The only thing we have on the thing today is drainage, unless we want to go down and do the bottom things first, because drainage could get lengthy.
I'd do the move down.
Yeah, that way Ben can go about his business. Okay, first we'll do, action on additional vacation days in lieu of raises for employees.
You wanna explain that for the public so they,
Okay, and what this has been discussion on. We're 0% raises on all elected officials. They're not affected by vacation days. The employees got 0. We thought there was some conversation about a couple of vacation days in lieu of raises, so they get something. And whether that would be a 1-year thing or a continual, but then we'd have to tap into the handbook if we changed the amount of vacation days. So that was the discussion, so I just opened it up to the board for additional discussion and possible action.
Personally, I think that we just need to we talked about the 3 additional days. And I think that would be just for this year. We don't need to go into the handbook. We're given that in lieu of the raise, and that's what we'd always talked about, having vacation days in lieu of the raise. So that would be my suggestion.
And I'm thinking, the thought process behind this is, it doesn't affect your budget.
Right.
The people are rewarded a little bit for their work and their dedication to the county, but it doesn't affect our budget.
so then 3 days would go off the books for next year.
Right. It would just be, and it'd have to be used in the calendar year, June 30, 2025. No, I'm sorry, July 1, I always do that, July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026. It'd have to be, those 3 days would have to be used in that calendar year.
And this is just for non-union employees, correct?
Yes,
Because union employees.
union employees got raises.
They got correct,
Some of them did.
right,
So would this be handled
Well, I
specifically
don't know for sure.
yeah.
through each office? I mean, you have to handle it the same way you handle your regular vacation. They handle it through their office.
What
Yes,
okay,
they
the
have.
other thing I was thinking of, okay, because I think we have a way of doing this in our computer, don't we? Trish, that we could make it as PTO instead of saying vacation, make it call it PTO.
That's probably a question for Terry or
Sean.
Shauna.
I mean, I know there's a spot on the pay stubs where it says like family sick leave.
Yeah,
Should call them in.
What's the other, there's another.
Oh, Terry's right there.
Comp.
Oh, you're here. I'm looking right over you.
That's not a question for me, that's a question for Donna, but she stepped out for just 1 second,
Okay.
she'll be back, so we
All
can
right.
yell at her when she walks
Okay.
back through.
Okay.
but that way you could differentiate between,
The
their
days.
normal vacation days, and if we could call it PTO, and that way there wouldn't be a confusion.
Gotcha.
Cause there has to be a guidelines that they can go by each department on keeping track of who took off when.
Mhm.
So you can't lump it in with their vacation or you never
Right.
know how much anybody ever took or didn't.
Well,
take.
if we can't do it, you could. You could do it, cause you're just giving them 3 extra days, but they have to, they can't roll those 3 days over, so they would have to. Those would be probably if we can't do it as PTO, those could be your first vacation days and they're used.
But then
Given
you,
until,
but then you wanna take it away for the next year.
but you're not really taking it away because we're doing this in lieu. We can't afford to do or raises right now. So we're doing this in lieu of a wage increase. So that's, you're not really taking it away. We're giving this to them because we cannot in our budget afford to give.
This is, yeah, this isn't
Wages.
considered a raise.
Right,
Per se, so
It's-
it's not.
It's more like a
Year
stipend.
deal. This is like a
right.
Okay,
token gesture to
Right.
the other. employees that-
Now we got her in here, she can.
Yeah, and that's why we keep saying in lieu. You've got to say, I mean, that's why we keep saying in lieu. That's the key word right there, in lieu.
Okay, the
So-
question is, do you wanna present it to her?
If we can do these 3 days additional vacation and code them as PTO or something different in the computer, so there's a difference.
So I can create a new leave code just for those 3 days. And then I would just manually give it to everybody. And then it's just when someone would go to use them, they would just have to let me know that it was one of those 3 days and not vacation or sick or whatever. And then
Or
the
do you just
computer would,
use them first and then it's done?
Cause when you convert, when you max out on sick leave and you convert, there becomes a additional line item for those 3 days for 3 weeks that you converted, so I would assume would be. I think that was just coded as like converted sick.
Well, they wouldn't roll over. If we can code it as PTO, then it really doesn't matter if they use their PTO first or their
Well,
vacation, but it has to be used. If they
Yeah.
don't use it by June 30th,
gone.
it's
Yeah.
gone.
and I could go through, I mean, I'll just set myself a reminder to go through everybody's and see if they've used it or not, and then whoever still has any,
Send a
On that
reminder out
day.
that, hey,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
get it
so
used.
they don't lose it.
Yeah, then I just zero out,
Mhm.
anybody that hasn't used them yet, so
Okay.
I'm sure people would use them, right?
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't,
Issue with that.
I don't either.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah, so it would be a very easy thing to do.
okay,
That's
good.
what I wanted to hear. I didn't wanna
Yeah.
throw a bunch of stuff on you and they say,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it would be very easy. so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, we don't wanna make it real easy, but we wanna make it somewhat.
well, I'm glad that it would be easy. so.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's the way we can set it up, and I'm all for it.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion then that we give 3 additional, and we're gonna put PTO days instead of vacation days in lieu of a raise for calendar year July 1, 25 through 6/30. If I write it, I'll get it right, 26.
For a non-union.
For non-union, thank you, for non-union employees,
Should be fiscal.
fiscal, okay, in fiscal year,
That makes it simpler.
yeah.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
We better not have any, cause we beat this thing
Yeah, we beat
forever.
the horse
Yeah,
for
I
a long
know.
time. All right, all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Taken care of. Okay, the custodial part, that's gonna be work session, so we'll move up to drainage, I guess.
I'll make a motion to go into drainage.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're in drainage. Okay. It's been a busy time in your
that's what
office.
happens when we have rain.
I've been very busy.
I'll start off here just because I think I looked at probably 7 or 8 different things last week. Like I said, I don't know what's going on, but a lot of people are just noticing stuff.
Mhm.
And after having conversations on a couple of them, I could see their concerns, because what I was finding most of them were private outlets. And our policy, what I was referring to is our policy on the pipe and repairs to private outlets. A couple of the cases, the landowner who owned the land only owned about maybe 100 yards of land before it switched to a different landowner. And our policy right now is we pay for the pipe. When I say we, the trustee drainage district pays for the pipe, landowner does the installation. The concerns I had from a couple of landowners was, geez, I got 100 yards of this tile. It's draining a half section of the neighbors, but I gotta pay to fix his pipe, basically. And I could see his concerns about that, and I sometimes wonder, that's the reason a lot of these outlets aren't getting repaired. Because it isn't really their problem, because it isn't affecting their drainage so much. But it does affect the whole drainage districts, because there's dirt sloughing in, the banks are eroding. So these things don't get fixed. So my thought, it'd be better, and also we don't have any control how they are installed. If we don't know who's doing it. So my thought was, back in 2017, we had a policy that we would pay for the pipe. Because at that time, we were having people just running their black tile right into the ditch, no tin culvert, PVC pipe, things like that. So we, made that decision to pay for the pipe, but I don't think we went far enough. I think we should control the last, I should say, or the first 50 feet from the ditch. Mainly so things get taken care of on a timely matter. And because these pipes, a lot of them I looked at, they're rusting out on the bottom side, they're washing out the banks. Or the pipe had bent and shoved to the bottom of the ditch and the water was boiling out of the bank where it hooked to the field tile. So I don't know, to open up discussion, what you guys think?
So when you say back 50 feet, does that mean the county picks that up 100%? Not
Drainage
drain,
district.
okay, it does go to the drain. Okay, I just want to make sure that the drainage district does.
Yes,
Okay, so it's not.
mainly from the top of the bank, 50 feet back, that will cover all your connections.
Okay.
And it should cover all of your, right now, any pipe that goes from the field, open drainage or surface drainage from the field into the ditch is covered by the drainage district, that pipe is. But the ones buried in the ground aren't. So basically, it'd be going back to covering the same pipe, just doing it consistently.
You wanna regulate the private tile also.
I wanna regulate the private tile coming in.
So if it's clay right now, which obviously, Travis just found a whole bunch of them up there on the one up north.
Yeah,
There's still more that he hasn't found, because we walked that ditch and. you
yeah,
and I
and we've
found
seen the
two,
water coming out of the bank.
But he only found the two along the road. He hasn't even found the ones. How many of them are out there?
Yeah. And the problem is, if you don't fix them,
Exactly.
what happens?
Yeah.
The bank gets soft and it slides in.
I have a
Terry?
question, cause what if, like, if we have a joint district? Then, cause we don't really know what their policy is. So then how would that affect them?
It's a good question.
Mhm.
Because we have one currently.
Couple of these, one of these I looked at, there's 3 pipes that are in our joint district.
Well, wouldn't it be 50-50 anyway? I mean, isn't that the way we have a joint?
But.
No, it's spread out over all the landowners of the district. Some districts, they only have like 10%, we have 90 or. we
Yeah,
have
it's all
60.
over the place. Some of them might have 1%, but I don't know if their policy is paying for private, cause you know, it's generally it's county. So that was just my question or my thought was.
A good point,
how that
Terry.
would Affect them, so.
It's probably a discussion we should have with them before we proceed any further.
What warrants the repair? Like a ditch clean out or just a farmer noticing that it's in culverts getting rusty on the bottom, because
Or it's been over,
you're looking at. I think the number of miles, almost all of Humboldt County is drainage district,
Mhm.
guarantee it's gonna make your eyes bulge.
There's a lot of
Start
them.
thinking about how many culverts are rusting out on the bottom.
Mhm.
You just drive,
There's a ton of them.
you just drive up with a Thor block down, look how bad that one is.
Even the clay tile, most people don't even know where their grandpa put that in. So there's clay tile gonna pop up everywhere. Just in that little stretch we walked, there was 4 of them that was undiscovered and he only cleaned one side. So how many's in the side he was walking on? I mean, now, I don't know what this number's going to end up being, a lot.
Mhm.
I don't know how big Apple was biting into.
Is this something that we need to, I don't know, do you do a hearing on something like this and get landowners' thoughts? On something like this? I don't know. I mean, to me, I think it's,
I think.
If it's
we probably
private
need to have a
tile,
Discussion with the neighboring joint, geez, that involves, 5 counties.
I get that, they might have multiple landowners, but it's still to the landowner's advantage to take care of these, even if there's multiple landowners it's private.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how, in general, the landowners of the drainage districts are gonna feel about doing, I don't know how much it's all gonna cost, but
Does code
it could be,
allow for
That'd
it?
be very expensive.
I don't
it
know.
could be. I
was
don't know. That's why I'm saying, do we need to, I don't know.
I was just talking with Mike, 468, 148 through 150. Talks about damage done by private individuals to public drainage.
Mhm.
But it's not public drainage, it's private drainage.
But they're damaging our public, it's not really public, it's government owned. Our trustee drainage ditch. So there is language in there that you can assess it back to the farmers. But there again, they're not gonna bring it up unless someone else complains. Because, and that's what I'm finding out, you go out and look at this, and it's probably been this way for quite a long time. But it doesn't affect them, so they don't care.
Mhm.
but it's affecting our ditch, so
It's
then the minute
affecting
we
the
find
ditch.
out about it, we're gonna fix it.
Well, yeah,
Or we're gonna have it
that we just did
requested.
dip the silt out that keeps coming in.
Yeah, so one way or the other, it's gonna cost us money, or the ditch.
Across the drainage district.
District.
Mhm.
Well, I guess to me, I'd reach out to someone with that book. Do we talk to the drainage? What's his name, the attorney? Ask if what our obligations would be
I could.
and say, which is the best way to enact this? Do we? Because if you go 50 feet, is that enough? That gets us back far enough that,
Yeah, it should, cause normally we put on 20 feet of stick of pipe on the end.
What's
And if there-
what's that pipe cost per foot?
Depends on the size, 15 inches, $15 a foot, so $300 every stick.
Mhm.
And it gets, or the higher, the larger diameter you go.
So we went 50 feet, that's 60 is $75 or 750.
Well, you wouldn't put that many, so you just put one stick on.
And 50 feet probably takes you beyond the drainage district easement.
that's what I wondered.
Because 50 feet's usually from the center of the creek.
Yeah.
For you guys for easement,
Mhm.
so. If you go 50 feet back, where's 50 feet from what? From the bottom of the B of the ditch, from the top of the bank, like you guys have to decide what.
I think we're gonna have to have the conversations with the districts probably first. Cause maybe what we're doing already isn't probably not what they do.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm just joking over
I
here.
was gonna say, well, you see, I didn't look at you.
Okay now.
Yeah.
There's gotta be other, counties that are having the same issues we are, do we know how any of them have
No,
done any of that?
maybe you should probably call the other drainage clerks and see how they handle it.
You're opening a can of worms.
Oh, I know,
I know, but.
but if you don't address these things.
Yeah.
I know, it's even worse.
And we might as well do
You
it
go
the,
out to my dredge ditch and there's pipes literally sitting in the water.
Yeah,
Like
they've
instead of
been over,
pouring out.
shoved down into
Oh,
the
yeah, it
bottom.
looks horrible. I mean, it's just not draining right.
right,
I
Mhm.
think it's just
Well,
people
that's-
don't go check.
I
Yeah,
don't
you
understand
know,
why
the
they're,
problem is, if you look in the plat book, a lot of this land out here is owned by people who are in their eighties.
mm-hmm,
or out of an.
Cabs
Yeah,
and landowners,
yeah.
and they don't see that stuff,
no,
and they, that's the thing.
I've never understood, and I'm not an engineer by any means, but why that comes out of the ground into the ditch and it's hangs 6 foot out into the ditch.
Well,
And
yeah,
then the snow hangs on it in the wet fall through the winter,
And
Yeah.
then it
and
bends
then when
it.
it
Or pushes
thaws,
it.
it bends the damn thing over, so.
So where it comes out of the field into the ditch. In theory, you don't want it dumping on
Right
the
on the
bank and
edge.
then
Wash it out.
Scouring it out.
a scour hole into your bank, so you bring it all the way out to where the ditch bottom breaks.
it's,
So that
it's like this,
dumps
there's
there.
one of the pictures,
Yeah.
the whole bank is sliding away because. The pipe is bent down, the water's coming out of the bank, so we're, losing a chunk of the ditch the size of this room. That goes to the bottom of the ditch and then it washes downstream and we gotta dip it out someday.
It's a shallow tile that's coming out of the field, it's a long way down to that ditch bottom, that's why you end up with like 10 feet hanging just cantilevered.
Yeah,
And the weight of the snow and everything ends up breaking it off.
Mm-hmm. And there's another one, I mean, it was just repeated after repeat, everything that I looked at was,
wow. Well, it's a huge issue,
it is.
we just gotta figure out what is the best way and the
I would just ask,
easiest.
I mean, can we send an email or whatever to the districts around us and ask if they have a
Yeah,
policy
that's
on
what-
that?
Well, Terry
Can
looked
we
into that,
address it?
Yeah.
Yep, we can do that.
okay.
Took us a month to figure out the 3 days that we were
I
giving
know.
away. We might as well find out what the consensus is for the people around us, how they're dealing with it. But I don't know, like you said up there. He's up by Odison finding clay tile. That's already,
Well, I just talked to an individual yesterday and he said, well, that main was put in 63. I don't know anybody that knows when the tile, where does all the laterals to that tile go? Who all tapped into it because they don't have to have permits. I mean, they just pop a hole in, away you go. So it's the same thing, drainage districts. Gary Jensen would be one to ask how many clay tile lines did you lay or put into a drain, into a creek that we're gonna have to put steel pipes on to extend to another creek now. Just to get a number, a rough number is all pretty much per mile. Is it gonna be 10 per mile, 6 per mile? I have no idea.
Terry, how often, like when you guys do drainage district cleanouts. And then Travis or somebody comes back and says, okay, now I gotta replace outlets for the tile that I damaged when I was cleaning. What's that number for a project?
There's quite a few.
I feel like that's a lot.
I bet you there's 6, 7 per mile at least. You always see a pile of bent up culverts that they clean up at the end. And well, one of these I went and looked at was a clean out that was done probably 5 years ago. And I think when he cleaned it, I don't know, now you see the water coming out of the bank. And well, mainly because the farmer brought to my attention, he was doing some tiling out in the field and wondered why it wasn't working so well. Well, they went down, and looked at the bank and it's all covered up. And just kind of weeping out to the side.
Got covered.
Yeah. Or when he cleaned it, it was just, there was no pipe there and it was just dry and got covered up.
When we cleaned it, it wasn't running, so you
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
didn't even know it was there, just. But
So,
even when we walked, we did less than a mile, we found 4. That's why I'm
Mhm.
I'm kinda curious how many per mile is gonna be needing addressed.
But it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, we're gonna get 1,000 of them come in, they're just gonna trickle in over the years
Sure.
that need to be repaired.
Well, but Rick and Travis would probably have an idea, or gents, or whoever, just say, if you're cleaning a mile stretch on the ditch, what's the average number of pipe that you replace, or need to be replaced? They said 4 or 5, then we know that they aren't gonna just keep popping out from nowhere and
No,
an added cost. And I think it needs to be addressed, because if we don't, it just keeps pushing their dirt into our ditch. Or their ditch,
yeah,
they're all. So that just causes it needed to be cleaned earlier.
Secondary road right of way.
just asking,
Just-
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend that wants to know.
as in when you do putting a new box in, or just the repair that comes in, cause there is pipes that come in,
That
are in the right of way,
in
just right out here.
decades past, the farmer's answer for draining their field was always to dump their private tile into the county's right of way. That way, it was the county's responsibility to maintain the outlet.
Oh,
So
okay.
anytime you have a dredge ditch across secondary road right of way, you usually end up, it looks like toothpicks coming out of the fields with all of the individual tiles that dump out right next to a bridge or next to a culvert. We've obviously got surface drains that come through, but we've got a lot of private and county tile that dumps right at the edge of the county's right of way.
Mhm.
That's the reason that I'm asking, because
Gotcha.
you guys are setting precedents. You're gonna create an additional expense for secondary roads if we have to maintain the same
All
policy
those.
that you're doing.
Yeah,
Just.
we just need to bury our heads.
Actually, it'll probably cut your,
We bury our
cut your
heads.
expense.
If you,
Do you bill that back to the landowners now? Well, so what's gonna change?
Yeah, but those pipe don't have a name on it, they don't know where it's coming
that's what
from,
we're doing.
Oh, right, I see what you're saying. Okay,
right? You don't have a clue where that pipe comes from, it's just coming out by your,
It just, you can see that it comes at a little bit.
at what angle, and then you just start wondering who put it in there.
Yeah, and usually we tackle it when we replace the bridge or we put a culvert in or whatever it is, then we put shiny new outlets on all of the surface and subsurface tile outlets. So,
okay,
Which in turn affects your budget then.
well, it just makes the project more expensive, but if,
Mhm.
I mean, if anybody's just calling that they've got an issue with an outlet and they want us to start replacing every one of them, it could get more expensive. of course.
Mhm.
So if we have Terry send an email,
it'd go to the drainage district, cause you guys, you gotta pay into the drainage districts, right?
I pay into the drainage districts, but I also do repairs in the county driving way on behalf of the drainage district and don't usually go back to that.
Those are your intakes and things like that are you referring to, or?
Usually like drainage district mains where we have to dig down 15 feet and repair something. Those I'll send invoices in for repair, but just like putting a new intake top in, putting a new outlet tile on. A lot of those we haven't been done before. We've just been doing.
Thank you.
You just did a major one north of my house about 4 or 5 years ago, Nellis and Joe did it, I think. They went down a long ways, underneath that driveway. That was huge.
And that's usually why we end up billing those, because instead of a couple hour repair, you're talking a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes too, you're dealing with larger fittings that cost a large amount of money.
Mhm. Okay. All right, well, we got some direction here, and we'll hear what other counties have to say.
can we
and
help
report
her
back.
figure out the wording that we want to ask them?
Do you know what to ask? How they handle
Private titles when somebody, yeah,
when people aren't fixing them?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I can.
All right, well, I just-
Verbiage on it,
okay.
unless you have something specific you want in there.
No, I just wanna make sure that we were all clear on what we're asking,
Why
so.
don't you type up an email and then send it out to everybody so we look over it before you send it out? Would that work? That way, if these guys wanna change anything, you can.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Another thing that Mike and I went up to Laverne and looked at a main up there. It's a joint main with Cassuth. It's got tree roots plugging it. It's an 8-inch main is what the map shows. And we thought best thing, cause they water jetted a few years back. Of course, now it's plugged again. We thought it'd be better just to dig it up and replace it with solid pipe. Cause it goes through where there's a whole bunch of trees. So we're gonna have to have a joint meeting with Cassuth. Because, you know, if you spend a dime with a joint meeting with another joint district, you gotta get approval from their board. So at that time, I would like to discuss the memorandum of understanding with Cassuth. Joint, with a joint, or joint districts,
Mhm.
so you don't have to have these meetings when you're just fixing a little something.
It's a good idea.
They never got back to me about today, so they did say their board meeting was tomorrow. And get back with them and see
We're gonna do it next Monday.
next Monday.
They can come in, because we're the lead county.
Okay.
So we'll have a joint meeting with them next Monday to discuss that. Just to show them the inconvenience it causes for a small repair. Cause these things need to be done, and I think it's ridiculous that we have joint meetings for small repairs. So just put on there to set dollar amount for memorandum of understanding for repairs to drainage district. Joint drainage districts. It's like this one here, I bet you their percentage of the district is 20% maybe.
No.
It's minimal. But. Okay. Anything else in drainage?
You wanna discuss that tile up north or just? Are you gonna do it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring that hot topic up too.
Section 26, DD5, a new farmer took over the ground. Destroyed probably 100 feet of it, just the tile, both ends are 3 foot deep. I have pictures here. Both ends are 3 foot deep, but the center is peaked and the ground just moves and it just does.
And it kind of disintegrates over years.
Yes.
Kind of gets lower.
Well, I went out and looked at it yesterday. Adam Lubenthal dug some exposures, so I could get an idea of what's happening, and the ground tapers down towards the middle of the field. The farmer just went through and ripped it, and I would say it's probably not over 10 inches deep in the middle, and it's 12-inch main. It connects two mains together. It's a branch, it connects both of them together, and it's pretty clear that it is working because there was no dirt in some of it. Rick called me last night, and at what point do we discuss who's at fault? Cause I talked to a neighboring farmer and he said, why did I pay for him ripping that out? Well, I need input because I don't have the answer to it. Rick looked it up and said, yes, it is probably the fault of the farmer that ripped it out.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, no.
What I said, what I said, there is code that says you can.
The code.
Code says you can go after people for damaging your.
Yeah.
Your main,
Your main district. You know, but. There again, it's 6 inches deep. Who's gonna think that's a main 6 inches deep in the
Not
ground, or
point.
10 inches deep?
That's my point.
Will the flow work to make it go deeper?
No, we
No.
can't change the coefficient because you got two mains and they're set
That's
at,
what I mean,
they're set at a certain depth. You can't dive under it and expect the water to flow through.
Well, that's what I mean. You
Yeah.
can't, there isn't really any way to fix it. That's what I mean, to make it go deeper because the
No.
water won't work.
And he ripped it out, I mean. rip it out.
Yeah, he's got pictures. He brought all kinds of clay to the surface and black plastic where they
And that's
patched
where
it in the
that's
past.
the rip, that's the tooth off with an implement. And it's just clay pieces laying on top of the ground from being brought up.
So is he even gonna be able to farm that?
if you don't go deep in the deep tillage, you can tell, there's probably 4 or 6 inches there, so you can lightly kill it and still farm it, but it was
But,
all.
yeah.
That's one end of it. Oh, that's how deep it is next to the road's up there, and that's how deep it is, it's plenty deep, but it tapers so bad in the middle of the field. That it comes down to. A very shallow. That's my.
What kind of shoes are those, Nikes or Adidas or whatever?
I didn't have any tools to measure with, so I used what I had.
This tile line is actually, it connects two mains.
Yep.
It goes from probably an old main to a relief main. And it's a connector is what it is. Does it even need to be there? I don't know.
With the volume and the water pools there, and I think that's the reason it's there.
That's probably why they put it in.
Cause it's underwater, you get a good rain, I talked to the neighboring farmer and he said when it rains, that will be full of water and it will stay that way. So, that's kind of, I'm asking for your opinions or. Which way to go with it.
Well, you can't hardly put a main back in there.
Yeah.
The only
Not
way,
that shallow down,
No, that,
It'll just get ripped up again.
yeah, it'll just get ripped up again.
Yeah.
because he only farms it for 2 years and he's
How
not,
many
he knows
drains
it's there, but
is
the next guy doesn't,
yeah.
then we're gonna be right back where we
Yeah.
are.
how many pardon?
Can he haul in dirt? I mean, I know that probably sounds stupid, but can he haul in dirt?
Put more cover on. That'd be way too expensive.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I mean, and they're not gonna do that
What's
either.
that?
Bill goes to the landowner, and then he can go after the guy that's farming it.
I can't remember what it said.
He said you send a letter to the landowner and tell them that that main has been damaged.
If we set it back in there, Paul Trotter used to farm that years ago. And again, the neighboring farmer's the one I'm gonna talk to, he said Paul ripped it out. And he replaced it with plastic, that's where this plastic come from, but he fixed it himself, and then that was just kind of a CRP place that he didn't farm.
And then this guy's farming. he
And
ripped
this
it out.
guy just took it over and thought, I'll farm that spot, and.
Yeah, cause it's been dry, you know, so I can get in there and do it, I'm just gonna farm it.
So it's a case that if we do replace it, it becomes
Non-farmable.
non-farmable basically, because, well, you can farm it if you want, but you rip it out and.
You're gonna fix it again then.
Exactly. And the concerns of the neighboring farmers is dirt getting in there and flowing and plugging the mains, which.
How many acres would be affected on the top side of it that aren't gonna drain for? Since it's-
Well, it's right between two mains, there's a main here and a main there, and then it connects the two.
Yeah.
And they put it there, like he said, mainly probably to drain that pothole.
Yep.
My suggestion is put an intake on either side of that and get rid of the main in there. If they wanna tile it, they can put their private in, and then if they wanna rip it out, they can rip out their private.
Well,
out.
that's. The way I look at it, I would agree with that.
You can't leave it.
Yeah,
But there again, do we open ourselves up to where you're abandoning a main? And now that land has no value. Or reduced value because it's not tiled, so you get sued for that, I don't know,
Well, before it was in
Maybe we did.
CRP because of the fact that they knew it was in there. So they didn't have to worry about it, that way they wouldn't be farmed around and destroyed.
right, and they got
Now
paid
it's
for it.
back in production and it's. Really not in production. So we're damned if we do.
Cause that area, obviously, if you don't have that going across it, it isn't gonna drain. It's just gonna
No,
turn into
no, it's a pothole.
Yes. So,
Well, maybe after the meeting, I'll drive up and take a look at it with you again.
okay,
And maybe we need to talk to a drainage attorney and find out. Talk to Colin, see what his thoughts are.
Well, I think we reach out to the landowner and have them express the fact that. It's our main, but if it keeps getting destroyed, we aren't gonna continue to fix it.
Well, I wouldn't even advise putting a main in
Yeah,
with only 6 inches of cover.
yeah, that,
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense,
No,
and it's too expensive to haul dirt in.
right,
but they have to know,
If you drive over, you're gonna probably crush it.
yeah, just driving over it.
True, true.
You have to put in
Yeah.
plastic or something.
Yeah,
You'll smush it.
The area where that shallow is probably 150 feet. It's a 500 foot span between the two. So,
Oh, between the two mains?
yes,
Oh,
they're
okay.
they're on the road, actually on the roads already. We have the intakes there. My thought process is if we come up to a certain point where we still have enough cover to protect that main, close it, but it's gonna still take the water. Unless
Yeah, I'll
the
take a lot of
farmer-
the surface
Unless
water.
the farmer wants to put an intake in, or we could put an intake in, whatever. But we could eliminate the place where it's too shallow to make it work.
Yeah,
Well, when you say we, you're talking the drainage district
Yes,
would, and then you're right back to the same thing that the neighbor asked, that why do I have to pay for something that
Exactly.
someone else tore out? Well, in order to drain your
The district. Oh,
I don't know if that's an overflow, or when the other main gets too full, that floods into this one, and this one takes the extra water. I have no idea, I don't have the answers to that, 'cause I don't know.
well, that's probably, it's probably done 80 years ago.
63,
Yeah.
Pretty close.
65 years ago. So, okay. Well, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Bruce, do you wanna bring up your issue that you have in yours?
Not really, not after all that. Last Monday after the meeting, Terry gave me the Rutland Township, section 21, I think it is. I think it's pretty sure it's 21. They had quite a section or quite an area in the middle there that was holding water, and the person that farms it had called and looking for way to fix it, and then all of a sudden the intake was gone. So Adam Lubenthal was assigned. He went out there and made dug some holes out there, which we have video, which are fairly entertaining. When I went out there, I'm thinking, how the hell did he get that machine out there? But he must have enjoyed the adventure of being out in the slop, but he had several holes dug that. Anyway, it goes from a 12-inch down by the road to, then it starts dropping. It goes 12, 10, 8, up to a 6-inch. And it's out in the middle, like 2,800 feet, which nobody around here knew that we had a 6-inch main. But that's the way, well, he was up there digging around, and all of a sudden, whatever was in that pipe, he must have got it to move, because all of a sudden it started taking water like crazy. And he damn near drained it in a little over 24 hours. It went from flowing duck pond to it's down quite a ways. And so he has a plan of just either hooking down at the 12 or the 10 and bringing up to the length, the 2,800 feet. And he'd have to rent another machine to dig, but it's awfully sandy in there. And he's looking, but you take roughly 85 times the 2,800, that's probably more than we can authorize as, and if you did,
Well, like you say, if you increase the size of the main, it's called an improvement.
yes.
So then you have to go through a hearing process.
Yep.
mhm.
So we go from 12, 10, 8, 6, wherever you hook onto that, you'd be, but that's the
What was
dilemma.
that then? That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Does that happen a lot where they go like?
But I didn't know we had 6-inch mains. I had no idea that
Who did that?
did it in that small.
But it isn't on there for. I mean, it's. I guess he's just. Asking what,
Basically, he's got two options. You can put it back the way it is, being he's got it working. Or you do an improvement.
Mhm.
I would suggest right now, put it back the way it is, because when you're talking this process, we're talking it won't get done till next spring. By the time you go through all the hoops and have a bid letting and all that, cause that's what you have to do when you do an improvement. So that'd be my recommendation, go in there and patch it back the best you can, and then have a hearing on it and see if they want to do an improvement.
What if he did, and I'm just throwing this out there, instead of the 12-inch, the length, what if you drop the price in order to drop the price, if you drop the size of the pipe, but is that still considered an improvement?
Unfortunately, when you increase the coefficiency, it's called an improvement. If you increase the size of the pipe,
But we can cobble it together and
yeah,
waste
Yeah.
money.
I know. But otherwise, it's just gonna sit open until next spring.
Till we
next
have a
summer.
hearing
Hearing, get a bid letting, and
and that's
am I,
not,
I'm probably
Yeah,
just,
because it's gonna be a long process.
it's a long process.
There's no expediting this in any way, shape or form.
I don't think so.
Because you have to have, code says you have to have so many days in between each
Mhm.
process and.
and that's just
Not
rented
wet.
ground, so Bob can't even probably do the petition to, it would have to
No,
go
it has to go to the
to
landowner.
the landowner, which is the trust, so I don't know.
But anybody in that district can do it. It doesn't
Right,
have to be
that's
the
what I'm
people that
saying.
are affected. It could be somebody who's just.
Who's
owns
tied on
land.
the other end that,
Yeah. And you know, probably when you look at that thing, they're probably gonna go further than downstream, and if you're gonna do a project, you're gonna do it right. You know, cause if you start with that, where that 12 is, and go 12 all the way up, all of a sudden now you're overloading the lower end,
Mhm.
and that's why these things have hearings and have engineers and cost a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But at least then they're done right.
well, I never looked on the bottom side or the map to see on the bottom side
Or where it even
where
dumps
that
out.
dumped, I'm guessing it would be over in that ravine behind Kish's. I guess it works that direction.
So that's another half mile.
It would be over that, it'd be a mile
Be a mile.
behind for Dawson's
That's it dumps into
to the
Dawson's.
southwest or east of there, so.
Maybe that's what's keeping Mitch's pond full.
That would be. Well, I'll let him know,
So,
'cause
that's,
otherwise if it's an improvement, we have to do the hearing.
yeah, if you increase the size of the pipe, you gotta do a hearing.
Okay.
I mean, for a short distance, you can replace, but if you're gonna start running considerable amount of feet. So tell Bob that, Bob Lynch that. He knows how the process works, I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
Well, right now, he's got a fairly big hole in the middle of that field. Cause it's awfully sandy that.
Or he's been out there waiting around with that excavator, but now that they got it opened up, it should dry out, right?
Yeah, hopefully. All right,
Okay,
Okay.
and I had my time with
yeah,
out west that he's still bound and determined, and I invited him to come up here and said, if you wanna come. State your piece, but we all are in agreement that that has nothing to do with the drainage district, it's a private tile.
and there's nothing wrong with it,
And there's nothing wrong other than it's washing part of his fence, which,
and it's not washing his fence, the tile itself is not washing the
No.
fence, it's the surface water
It's
that
the
comes
surface
across
water.
the field. And washes corn stalks up against his fence. He could go out there with a rake and rake it off if he likes.
and I invited him up here, and then I finally just got tired of it.
Okay.
But anyway, I invited him, so
Who knows, he may show up sometime.
All right, anything else for drainage?
Not at the moment.
Okay, so we're gonna get our meeting set up with Cassuth next Monday. So you pick a time that's convenient, I guess. To talk about the repair work up in Laverne. And also the memorandum of understanding. We need to get working on these harder, with these adjoining counties. Okay. Motion.
We'll make a motion to go out of drainage.
Seconded.
I have first and second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're out of drainage at 9:20.
Terry,
Okay,
just so you know, if they can't do it next week or next Monday, the following Monday, we have a hearing at 11 or on 11 at 9 o'clock. Right? That's what's in my book.
oh, we have a hearing next week.
do, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so if they can't do it next week, we're gonna be in drainage the following week.
Well, don't give them that option.
No, I know, but
Because we need to get this fixed up at Laverne.
I understand
People are
that.
getting water in their basements, which is hard to believe this year. That's how bad it's plugged.
Wow.
Well, did you see what they're digging up here, at the South Care Center?
Yeah,
I
I
did see
saw
that.
that.
Yeah,
Oh my.
he's got like 5 foot of water in that South Care Center. And they got all that ditch dug up, they've been pulling trees out of there
Yep.
because
Tree
the,
roots.
yeah, and it's plugged the tile that goes over to the,
Pretty much the whole front lawn
Yeah,
is
it's-
tore up.
it's tore up.
But didn't they say they had a foot of ice in that basement this winter?
Oh.
Well, I'm guessing that.
That's what I heard, they had a
5
foot
foot
of-
of water. you
They had a
got
foot of
coming
ice.
in.
Wow.
It's
in
a
the
mess,
basement. Yeah.
I bet it's a mess. Jeez.
but that's not ours.
No,
Yeah.
thank God.
You know, yeah.
I wondered if somebody had bought it, or something, it was all tore up. You know, so we were.
Well, they're,
It is bought.
they're trying to
It is.
empty the pool in the basement.
Good.
Wiffle bought it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I thought,
Ryan,
oh, he bought it from Pearson?
Ryan bought it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Okay.
What?
Right?
What did you hear?
No,
What?
Yes.
let's keep the rumors to a minute.
Oh.
It's a rumor.
Bulletin.
Yeah. Were they bringing some phone poles to it or what? Oh. All right, we're out of drainage.
I'm choking now.
Let's do our committee reports. That's all I have left.
All right, last Monday after we got done here, I helped or sat in with Rick
Thanks, Ben, for coming out.
on Ben's job review, so we took care of that. I think it was Wednesday, I had a drive out west of town for that drainage issue out there, and then Thursday morning, I saw you out by Rutland.
Yep.
So I was out driving around Thursday morning too for nothing, no meetings, just,
Okay,
that's it.
I thought, okay, on Friday, May 2nd, I had Humboldt, Board of Health at 7 AM. And, a lot of stuff's been going on the last month. So sanitarian had 123 well checks, for water.
Wow,
And, yeah, and, there is, so we wanna make sure that we let people also know that there is, grant dollars to shock, wells, and then there, you know, if there's stuff
Oh,
in
that's
there.
available. I didn't know that.
Mhm, yep, there is, grant dollars. And, Sandy,
gravity.
yeah, thank you. She, has been writing a lot of grants. And actually has been getting awarded several grants for
Good.
Humboldt and Wright, yeah. She also brought up that she wanted to encourage well closures that are not in use. Evidently, there's several wells in our area, and she would really, because she says that affects the quality of water and everything, so she would really encourage, and there's, I guess there's grant dollars for that also.
Do we know which ones those are?
The locations of them, I mean.
I don't know, we need to get with Sandy, she might know where. She
Yeah, there's just a lot of
Yeah.
abandoned building sites that have wells on them, where they haven't buried the sites yet.
Mm.
They're sitting there with wells on it.
There's a lot of abandoned farms.
And then it was brought up about septic tanks, evidently, there's been, some septic tank failures. And that contractors know if they are failing, There's code 200 foot of public system needs to, if it's a grandfathered, septic tank in city residence,
City limits.
right? But if it fails within 200 feet of a public system, then it needs to be hooked up to the public. They can't use the septic anymore. And she says contractors, because I asked, I said, how do, and she goes, contractors know that if they do fail, they need to do that. Public health, Elder Bridge has run out of money for home health funding. And that'll be gone within a few weeks. Those clients will go on the
That's the
sliding
one I
scale
looked at,
for
and there's
aid.
also-
So a lot of these cuts have really affected the elderly and, the funding cuts. So she says she has 7 total employees and 2 go out to see clients.
This one here is bad.
Measles has been confirmed in Kansas, Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Illinois. It's not, they said it's not an if, but a when. Iowa will have a, outbreak of measles at some point. She says there's free vaccinations for kids 1 year or older. And that would be a 1 dose, and then the older kids, 4 to 6 years old, would be the 2nd dose. She said 95% is where, you get herd immunity. But they're really encouraging people to get in, they can get free doses, and you have to be 1 year before you get a measles, dose. But if we do have an outbreak, then they will give, like they did in Texas, that if you're 6 months or so, then they will let that, you can get the immunization then. And I think we were like at, they want 95%, but we're at like 80-something%. Okay, economic impact per outbreak is like $100,000. So that's why they want people to realize it's not, there's a lot of, for as far as trying to find out where did it start, how, who's all been affected and how to get it. Unused drugs, evidently, that's another thing. So, you can take them back anytime at Hy-Vee, Larry's, the hospital and
Drop
LEC, that drop boxes, and they want people to do that. But that was brought up. Yeah, Sandy McGrath has written several grants for, public health and environmental health. So she's done a really good job as far as getting grants and stuff like that. And they're working, Kristen is working real closely with Sandy. And I see how they can coordinate some of this stuff.
And we share her with Wright County, so we would have a phone number.
Cause they have 2 out there, Bruce.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep,
but she's really good about getting back.
very, very good. I don't have that phone number, I had it, but. Okay, that's it, that's all I got.
Let's see. Tuesday at the housing development at 1 o'clock meeting, I was with Rick. Wednesday came up to the courthouse. And went through every single room. Closet, bathroom, everything. Seeing what needs to be fixed and all that good stuff. And then Friday I came up and helped the girls take out desk to the corner. We took out them 2 desks and a bunch of tables and there's a bunch of other stuff in the storage.
In that trailer, yeah.
And if there's gas in there in the containers, it needs to be placarded.
Yes,
Oh, but the container needs to be placarded
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, if he keeps gas in there,
And that was kind of the point of it, is putting it in there so it was out of the building.
yeah.
right.
All
If
right,
there would be a fire, the
they know.
fire department would know, you need to have a placard. Yeah, you do. I didn't know he was doing that.
Yeah, well, there's 2 things of gas out there. And there's a bunch of cabinets in there that need to go. And actually, there's a guy that'll take him. We're taking the desk out and it's a small cabinet. He goes, can I have that? I said, take it. He takes, I don't know where he's from. Is he from Dakota City?
Mm.
He's not? Do you know who it was at all?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, anyway, he picks up all his deals, he said he'll pick up any stuff we got, so. That's it.
Talked to Colin Monday about DD 125, that dam up on, Dickie's property. It's an ongoing thing, he's doing research and trying to figure out what we have to do to make that one possible. Hasn't really come up with a definite plan yet, but he's still working on it. Tuesday, DD HK J+2, Wacusta Township Section 2. Andrew Ruhlman went out and looked at that one. I've never seen it happen. The water line broke, or the tile broke, water come to the surface, run down about 50 feet and drop back in again and took off. I've never seen that happen before, but it obviously happened. It was a private tile, so. That one was his. DD 20 Branch D, Corinth Township, Section 7. And I took pictures, sent them into Terry. One of the ones we gotta fix, DD 16+55, Corinth, Section 8. I believe that's Divigs. So. It was an intake on a main that is collapsed. Need to get that one fixed. DD 11, Wacusta, Section 21 was a driveway that the farmer thought tile was taken dirt under the driveway. It was a cross pipe. I got hold of Ben. We put a work order in, gonna take care of that one. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? I come at you, Bruce, do you remember?
I think it was Thursday.
Okay, Thursday. Thursday I met Bruce out there. I got a call from Adam and he said, want me to come look at it? And I got with Bruce and we both met out there and. Well, looked at it as close as we could get. It was raining, so.
Roughly 21.
21.
Hadn't had a car on the blacktop didn't meet anybody all the way out. Him and I meet on the on the blacktop. And we had about 7 cars that had to come by and see what the hell we were doing. It's like, finally Mike just got in with me and
Yep.
he said.
They're not gonna battle this. Thursday, we met with Samuel's group and looked at the front steps, the front end of the building and, the facade and. We're going to address at some point in time. Went down, moved shelves and cleaned out boxes for the sewer drain repair with Rick that same day. And went to Laverne, looked at that project over there. I don't know what number it is, Section 11. Laverne Township. Yesterday, when I went back up to DD 5, Adam said he had holes opened up so I could get pictures and take assessment of what we gotta do up there, which I still haven't come to a conclusion on that. We'll go look at it later.
Yeah, okay. Well, Monday I did the dance evaluation. Tuesday, housing. Actually, I sit on there as a construction person and not as a supervisor. So that really doesn't count. This is one of those meetings I go to. And then, went up to Laverne with, Mike, looked at that issue up there on Thursday, met with Samuels on Thursday out here on the step. They're just probably a CM. They find the people that you need to do the work.
Yep.
For a percentage of the project always. And they said they have a company that does that kind of work. If they're up in the area this summer, they might swing in and take a look at it, just to give us an idea what could be done. And then, Wednesday, also on Monday, I think I went out to Thor, looked at the issue over there. Like I said, every day last week, I was looking at a different tile project. Just crazy, yeah. So it's been a busy week. So, anything else?
No,
What'd you do Friday?
Friday, I was out looking out there for V-bolts one. This one right here, this one here, he said there was one and I did the whole ditch and I found 2 more. One is a county main. I mean, it's this one here, it's rusting out. washing the bank out, but these two up here were they, when they cleaned the ditch, they kind of buried the outlets, the way it appears. So. And those two are privates.
Oh, Wednesday.
So, yeah.
All right,
We have a work session here to talk about the custodian position after this. And
Travis did call me after the meeting last Monday, and we had an awesome conversation for about an hour and a half. Just got to know each other, so we got a open communication, we can reach out to each other questions, and again, that would be one that we would ask, how many do you find along when you clean ditch?
And that number will vary a lot, I'm sure.
Well, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Sorry.
third,
We have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:37 or 6.
Who was second?
Bruce.
pick one.
Bruce or Bob?
Pick one.
And you know, that tile switches to a 14 on the south side.